tuning in to Chaos Culture Radio. Dropping knowledge in the studio, you already know.
Thank you for tuning in to Chaos Culture Radio. This is your boy Prince Hakeem.
And this your man Ronnie Ron. Hey, Prince Hakeem, man. It's great to see you, man. You looking great.
Likewise, you as well, my brother.
I already know, man. Hey, today is going to be a hot topic, man. A hot topic. Because you already know right now, we still dealing with the election with Trump trying to fight Biden. And, bro, it's crazy right now, man. How do you feel about that, man?
Oh, my God. It like the white boys say, we're stuck in a clusterfuck.
You something else, bro.
We're stuck in a clusterfuck. Or what they call a conundrum. You know what I mean? So...
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. It's crazy. So, and this is why we have to talk about this, especially us being black men. Mm-hmm. And I think our voices has even been heard even more now than ever since, 13% of black men voted for Trump. That says a lot. You know what I mean? And we have special guests today. We have a returning guest, and we have a new special guest. Our contributor, our number one contributor, our boy Jabari, is on the line.
Welcome back, Jabari. How you doing, man? Great to see you, man.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, fellas, man? Thank you for having me again. It's gonna be a dicey episode again.
Dicey ain't the word. You better hope they don't get mad at you, Jabari.
Nah. We're good.
Because right now you're up 30 points.
Here,
Yeah.
He up 30 points? What about me? I'm -5?
I'm asking, you've been -5 with the house and the land. The house and the land statement. You know what I'm saying? You've been -5, but we can gain those points back. But, hey, let's not hold to it. I want you to introduce a special guest. Jabari, you introduce it. You've been here enough. It's time to lift some heavyweight.
Yeah. Jabari, your
this is
turn.
one of my brothers, man. Need no introduction. JP. He goes by JP. I won't say his full legal name, but I just brought him in because when it comes to politics and when it comes to talking about this black community, I don't listen to a lot of people, but I listen to him the most. So come through, JP.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's a privilege to be a part of y'all's podcast. I appreciate the invitation today.
My brother, it's a privilege just for you coming here to give your opinion.
Yeah, blessed to you, King, man. Thanks for coming.
Praise be to Allah.
So this topic here is very touchy because Hakeem, Jabari, JP, you already know, most of our people vote for these people. Mm-hmm. For us to go in tonight, it's going to be very touchy. So understand that we're trying to educate the people. So the question is today, has the Democratic Party failed the black community?
Who want to touch first? Go right. Because my answer is already yes. He's been failed this for, we talking about generations.
Well, let's see if we could get a consensus and then we'll jump in. But who says yes and who says no? I say yes.
I say yes.
Yeah,
I say yes.
Okay, so there is a consensus. We say that the Democratic Party has failed black people. I guess I'll jump off first. First and foremost, I think that in this country, a lot of black people don't understand the history of the Democratic Party in terms of their history as it relates to prior to the Civil Rights Movement, in terms of being the party of the racists, of the Confederates. And a lot of, in my conversation with like a lot of people on the right and white supremacists, they tend to point that out a lot. But the fact of the matter is that it's true. They are the party of the racists. And as we move forward into the Civil Rights Movement, and we came out of that time period, now what happened is during the Civil Rights Movement, when they passed certain legislation, a lot of the people who were racist ended up coming over to the Republican Party, and a lot of black people who traditionally voted for Republicans ended up voting for the Democratic Party and what is called the Southern strategy, in terms of that shifting from one political party to the next. So a lot of people don't understand that. But in modern time or recent time, as we relate to from the time period of like Clinton on to now, when you look at certain policies that the Democratic Party put forth in order to try to fix the issues in our communities in terms of welfare, where you had a situation where it was an incentive for black men to not be in the household, in order for black women to get more incentives. That leads to a destruction of, the black family. When you talk about mass incarceration with Joe Biden, who's the author of many of crime bills since 1976, that in itself, says exactly what the Democratic Party is about. It's about continuing the legacy of white supremacy, but under the shadow or under the guise of, that diversity and under blackness, where people, are constrained by, looking at color and different things like that. But really, we have to look at the results. We have to look at the policies that tell us what their intentions are. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Man, you hit a lot of great points. To kind of back on for you, in 1963, the president at the time, we should already know, was Lyndon B. Johnson. Said, and I quote, "I will have these niggas voting Democrat for the next 200 years." So most of the time, people don't realize that the Democratic Party was the one that actually founded the KKK.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, which is a fact.
So most people are blinded, and also I even say in this modern time, every place that is Democrat is impoverished.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so something's wrong here, and even during the time of this pandemic, I was telling Jabari the other day when we were chatting over the phone. I was telling him how that it doesn't make sense that the Republican area are more eloquent, more clean, more jobs than the Democrat areas. The Democrat areas more the streets messed up, the businesses are closed, everything boarded up, everything is going to the S-hole. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Absolutely. Like, for example, we were talking about, for example, if you're in Miami right now, you go to Coral Gables, or at least a good part of Coconut Grove, everything is nice. Businesses up and running, streets is nice, there's palm trees, it's different. It's a different atmosphere. When you go to somewhere like Liberty City on 54th Street, for example, which is like, Democratic Central, 54th Street still looking the same. Like it always been looking ever since we was growing up as kids. So, and I see the same thing transpiring when I was living in Baltimore. Same thing. But it's like if you go to like a certain part of Baltimore where the electing officer at that point in time was Elijah Cummings, and still it wasn't really much of a change in regards to, you see a lot of vacant homes, you see a lot of streets, the roads is messed up. Like you could run through a pothole and mess your whole car up. And it's really goes down to who you vote in the office to pretty much manage your city official to pretty much manage your city. We see time and time again, we have our parents and their generation before us, will inform us that, hey, you go vote Democrat all the way down. And I'm guilty of that, because I was trained to do that. But now it's like this election is like, this year's like the first time that I actually had to sit there, and I'm in New York right now, and I had to sit there and study all the candidates that was running for the city office. Just pretty much write them down and do research to see which one is going to want to defund the police, which one that doesn't want to defund the police, which one is going to try to, who wants to clean up the community, and which one doesn't really care. So it's those type of things that the research I'm doing now. And, I can't really have this conversation with my own grandma. I love her to death. Because, my grandma, she's one of those people that tell me, like, hey, vote Democrat straight down, up and down, because that's how she grew up. She grew up from whoever told her, like, vote Democrat, vote Democrat, vote Democrat. So that is just poison in itself. And pretty much now it's like, we voted, a lot of people voted for Biden because the whole reason is just to get lesser evil out of the office. Let's just have a real conversation. Not all presidents are great. Every president has some type of evil. Every president has some type of racist in him. So to try to vote for Biden because he's a lesser evil is not a way to approach things within the office. That was my opinion.
Good point, Jabari. Good point. Hakeem, what say you?
You want to know something? Y'all brother said some great points here. I'm talking about great points, especially JP. You sound like a political analyst here.
He do. That's why I was like, wow.
That's what we're gonna have to W. Well, we're gonna have to W the political analyst. You know what I mean? Because your points was dead on. I didn't have. You know what I mean? You said some things that you know what I mean that somebody gonna have to dig in the dictionary and get that fact statistic straight. But you hit it point.
He did.
You know what I mean? The point that I want to get is, and the point that I want to stress is, Democrats have been pandering for black votes for generations, right?
Absolutely.
And you know what I mean?
That's a fact.
I'm gonna be honest with you. This last election had caused nothing but turmoil in my own house.
Really?
Yeah. They called me a traitor. They called me a traitor. Listen, they called me a traitor. They said that I like racist. They say how can you be a Republican and you're broke? Listen, no,
I don't believe you, Hakeem, on this one, man. Wow,
I'm telling you, my family turned against me, and I told them, I said, hey, I can think for myself. Just like 13% of black men who voted for Trump this year, and a lot of people didn't understand why black men were voting for Trump. Here's the thing: we voted from a policy perspective.
Yes,
you know what I'm trying to say. Sadly enough, they keep preaching the same narrative that Trump is a racist and this and that. Piggyback off what JP say, the 94 crime bill that Biden constructed still got some of friends that we know that is still in prison to this day.
Absolutely.
That is a fact.
And
minor defenses.
Minor defenses. Bags of weed. Shoplifting.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you something. Biden has not talked about pardoning any of them.
But yet Trump did.
Trump has let out more black folks than I can count.
Preach.
You know what I mean? They say they say he's a racist. Now, mind you, I don't know what you might define a racist. You know what I mean? People need to start questioning that. We know what racists look like if you experience that. But here's the thing. He might not be aligned from a race perspective where we might align to, but him being a racist, I don't know about that. But what I do know, his policies affect me in a way that benefits me. You know what I mean? And mind you, I'm going to say something real controversial here. You feel me?
Go ahead.
My parents come from Haiti. You feel me? You know what I mean? We came here legally, just like Ron and stuff like that. But when Trump was talking about illegal immigrants, I supported what he said. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. When he was talking about sending a bunch of people back, I didn't have no issue with that. I'm a born-bred American. Here's the thing I'm going to tell you why.
Well, why?
People haven't been to places like Kent, Mississippi, Medina, Ohio. I've driven to these places. And I've spoken to people who say that before Trump came in, getting a job was like the skin of your teeth because the Mexicans and a lot of immigrants was coming in here. They didn't have to illegally. They didn't have to pay them anything. They didn't have to do anything. When Trump came in here and hunkered down on certain issues that was supposed to be utopian, or what they might say it, caused a lot of people to not get jobs and this and that. And when he came and his rhetoric came here, a lot of dudes was getting jobs. So this is the thing that I was explaining, like, and you know, I'm just like any other one of you guys. I voted Democrat because my mother told me to do it.
Same here.
You know what I mean? Hey, you're a Democrat, and I'm gonna sign it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell you what to vote, and this is who you vote for. And I did that for generations, for years to come. But you know what I mean? Failed is not only that. I'm not gonna take too long. I'm gonna just mention something. You have Keon Hardeman, who's been city commissioner of Miami. You had Audrey Emerson. You have Cynthia Stanford, Dottie Joseph, who's new on the block. I don't know what she's done. And you have people like Felicia Wilson, who at the U.S. House there, and she's been there for years. And murders are still happening in Liberty City to this day.
Preach.
Yeah.
Preach.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You like so. Yes, we need to start thinking about either going with another party or creating your own.
Preach.
Or making the demands. If you're going to vote Democratic, you make demands like, hey, this is what we need done. If this doesn't get done, the next term, the next electing term, we developing our own party.
Basically,
or we're going to a party that pretty much that's going to benefit us as a community.
Jabari,
and we didn't start making demands.
You're right.
That's just
Ice Cube tried to do that, and look what they did to him.
That was what came to my mind. I was going to mention that, Hakeem. I was just about to mention that. Go ahead, JP.
Say something?
Go ahead, JP.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to something you said real quick about Trump. Yeah. So the situation with black people, in my opinion, is that we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Facts.
The rock is the Republican Party, because the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, I do believe that Trump is a racist, and at best, he's an opportunist who is willing to use racism to push his agenda. That's what I think about Trump. Obviously, we have a history. Obviously, we have a history of Donald Trump, parlaying with black rappers and being a part of our culture. But at the same time, I think he's gone through like a metamorphosis politically, because at some point he was considered to be a Democrat. But he has gone through a metamorphosis when you have people like Steve Bannon in the White House, who's the editor-in-chief of Breitbart, and Stephen Miller, who is considered to be a white supremacist. So I can't sit here and say that Trump is not a racist, because some of the things he said are very much so racist, some of the policies. I think the Republican Party, in the same way that the Democratic Party also panders to black people. That's the inception of the Platinum Plan, which Antonio Moore speaks to, that alludes to like the platinum chain, meaning, trying to attach, the platinum to black people, or, some of the things in his policies that are really rooted in like trying to give loans to black people, when we should be fighting for something that a lot of black people in themselves have a hard time grasping, which is reparations. But we'll talk a little bit about that later. But I can't sit here and say that Trump isn't a racist. I can't.
But JP, I was going to ask you a question then. My question is to you then, what is racism? Because we all have some form of racism. Because go ahead.
No, I said I think people would define it differently. And in terms of America, I'm talking about anti-blackness. I'm talking about, this long tenured history of discrimination against black people in this country. There's different forms of racism as it relates to, other people. I'm just specifically talking about in this country. And what I know, like I said before, is, people like you, like politics is, you could sum politics up in the people in which you bring into your administration. And when you look at people in your cabinet, when you look at people like I said, Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, that's not a good track record. You know what I'm saying? You had, I can't remember the general he had in office or whatever, but he made a claim that, slavery was just, something that was of its time. Like those types of people who say statements like that, you have these propaganda campaigns on social media like Prager University that says that institutional racism is not real. And most of these people, and I go out of my way to, try to have conversation with them, these are Trump supporters. So all of these things point to racism in my opinion. Like when you have your education secretary, Betsy DeVos, trying to create curriculum that changes the narrative of this country in terms of, not telling the truth about America and trying to paint an image that is, gloss over all of this destruction of black bodies. Like that is racism. So you have to, I can only draw that conclusion following, this administration and some of the things that they've done. But in terms of, some of the policies he's taking credit for, in terms of, I can't remember the name right now, but in terms of, the criminal justice laws and stuff, a lot of these things were actually created and pushed by Democrats, but the president tends to take credit for it. So that's just my take on Trump and like being racist.
My situation when it comes to racism, I feel like it's more of an economic situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was saying. That's why I was telling people when people say Trump is a racist, but he make a quote all the time. I put American first, and I think we also have the same. I think we also have the same idea. We have to put America first. For us to put America first, we're able to build our economic and our community more stronger. But if we keep focusing on the way of racism, pretty much of discriminating and stuff like that, we will never go far. We will stay where we at to this day.
Not to cut you out, but I wanted to say something real quick. You made a good point. There's a saying that says that a broken clock is right twice a day, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to Trump, there are two things that I do agree with. We do need to put America first. And when you talk about putting America first, the first and foremost thing is what your friend was talking about. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, man.
Oh, Hakeem.
What was your name? Hakeem. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It is illegal immigration.
Yeah.
Like, you have to understand that. And I'm like, don't get it twisted. Like, I'm a moderate on immigration. I love all of my immigrant brothers and sisters.
Likewise.
But understand that, absolutely. But do understand that immigration, whether it's low-skilled workers or high-skilled workers, disproportionately affects African Americans. Because what should be happening in this country is an investment in the citizens of this country. And the people in this country who are suffering the most are Black people. So you need to have a redistribution of wealth, but you also need to have a reinvestment in education, because we all know, we went to schools in Miami in the inner city. We know that these schools are not equal to the schools in, Aventura or down south.
That's a fact.
Need to have, absolutely. You took certain job skills and certain craftsman training out of schools, that would land people jobs coming out of schools. You need to put forth a plan that would help Black people to be able to do for themselves in these ways. But it's hard to do that when the Democratic Party is so set on immigration. Everything is like immigration, and that's a problem for me, at least. It's not directed at immigrants. It's directed at the failure of both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party to do something about immigration.
You said something dead on, and I agree, and I support that 100%. I just want to go back to what you said about Trump, which I want to elaborate on my statement, because, fellas, what he said is correctly. And when I said if Trump is a racist, I meant to the point if who's the biggest racist? They all racist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm trying to say?
That's a fact.
They all racist. Nobody. If it doesn't align with African Americans, Haitians, Jamaicans, or just people in the diaspora, periodly, what's gonna help us in America? No, they're not gonna. They're all racist in a sense, because they're gonna think of their own people first.
That's what I was saying.
No. So what he said is dead on about Trump. We're not gonna get past that. He is a racist. He is a racist, because he did stop niggas from getting in buildings, not renting to people. No, for real, it's a fact. But the thing about it is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say? And let me tell you something. I'm going to drop something which a lot of people don't know. The Ku Klux Klan is the reason why Marcus Garvey had got out of jail.
That's a fact.
Malcolm X himself had a secret meeting with the Ku Klux Klan to sit down to carve a state for Black people in itself. You can work with your enemy. You and your enemy can see both pain on both points. You feel me?
Right.
And this is why I say Trump was better for us, because the thing about it is, as him being our enemy, let's get that straight. His ideology was connected to, because we was talking about doing for self. Trump didn't want welfare niggas no more.
Yes.
And that's my point. Now, to fast forward on what they're saying, I'm not going to take too long. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, it is. Great conversation.
Absolutely.
Great conversation. To what he said into. You want to know something, brothers? The thing is stuff like when we have these little think tanks like this, where brothers and sisters need to come and dissect these type of situations and understand what we're facing. You know what I mean? And understand why we have to be more vocal and active in politics. And that's a big issue too, just let alone in Miami. You know what I mean? A lot of brothers here are not really into politics. They don't understand how it works. And this the reason why this the reason why you have these same old Cubans getting voted into office and they've been here for 30 years already. You know what I'm saying? And that, you know what I mean? That's really the point, what I want to say. You know what I mean on that?
Go ahead, Jabari. You were going to say something?
No, I was just what Hakeem said was just that was deep. You know what I'm saying? Not a lot of people want to talk about that because we all have Cuban friends in Miami.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They're
definitely
the elites. Like how white people are the elites in the country of America that we're in right now. They're the elites when it comes to Miami in general. They're
very conservative.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I just wanted to say something real quick about the Cubans. So obviously, I always tell people when I live in Maryland now. When I talk to people about our situation back home, I tell them it's a love-hate situation because we all got Cuban friends that we love, brothers, sisters. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, that's a part of the conversation I'm talking about. Both parties use immigration for their own reasons. So the president at the time that the Cubans came in was actually a Republican president. And what we see is that they allow, and we'll talk on this about ADOS because it's not just, it has something to do with black immigration as well.
Yep.
But in terms of Cubans, they allow for a group of people to come in, people who come from, who had a lot of their wealth and a lot of their privilege stripped from them, but were given benefits to come over here and overstep a whole community who was already here. That's a problem. Like you talk about the history of black people in Miami, you had people like James Brown and performers who would come to Miami who would have to stay in Overtown, but because they couldn't stay on the beach, but they could perform on the beach. You know what I'm saying? There's a history of racism on behalf of the Jewish community, on behalf of the Cuban community, and a lot of different immigrant community because, and we'll talk about this later, but black people in this country, specifically American descendants of slavery, are a bottom caste. And so it's easy for you to bring in a whole nother group of people that just got here in the 60s to overstep somebody who's been here since 1619. That's a problem.
Man, you're hitting points.
Listen, he just said something that sound like you like 9th generation Floridian. You know, a lot of folks don't know what you just dropped there.
Yeah, he did. He dropped some jewels.
You know what I mean? Overtown was the epicenter of black people, where Sammy Davis Jr., everybody who came to the scene there. The Lyric Theater was some of its greats. Black doctors, lawyers flooded the place. We had our own black hospital there.
Yep. Absolutely.
Man.
Yep. There's a long legacy of different policies that have led to our demise in this country.
And not only that, but I was going to say this too, JP. A lot of people don't know that our ancestors back in the 1900s, they was all Republicans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So people keep forgetting that part. They were all Republicans. They understood it. They understood the method of being a Republican. Because the whole method of being a Republican is do stuff for self. So they understood that. No handout. We have to do it ourselves. But then when the Democratic Party got formed, they created their own party. Then they start weakening the black community. They make them feel like you need somebody. You need somebody to depend on.
Right. Yeah. Actually, the first black senators. There's a book that I have not finished. I started, but it's a book by Ta-Nehisi Coates called "We Were 8 Years in Power," and it talks about the only thing worse than bad Negro government is good Negro government. And when you talk about black people being Republicans, the first senators, the first, government officials in this country were black people, and they were in the Republican Party. So you were head on with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong?
In Louisiana, in North Carolina, South Carolina. Yeah,
South Carolina.
All in the South. Mind you, all in the South, Hakeem. And then guess what happened? They created a Democratic Party to shut them down.
Yep. Yep.
It's gonna get heat, man, but it's gonna get more heated when we get in that ADOS situation. We got to wrap up because
yeah,
we got to move on.
So final notes. Go ahead. Go ahead. Who's going first? Final
notes.
I'll go first. I want to point out something that Jabari said earlier. Essentially, black people have to learn that voting is an exchange. Like, you can't just give your vote. We vote for the Democratic Party 80 to 95% for the past 60 years since the Civil Rights Movement. You can't give your vote to a specific party and not expect something in exchange. We should be the priority of the party, and we're not.
Oh, no, my bad. Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead, Jabari. On you.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to piggyback what Jay said. I mean, again, if you're going to vote Republican or Democratic, do your research. You know, I was one of those people that pretty much I never wanted to talk about politics, but times that we live in now, you can't run from it because it's going to decide where this black community goes from here. Is it going to grow or is it going to shrink up? Because you guys see what's going on out here. The Jewish people is buying everything. They're using their generational wealth and they're purchasing property up here in New York, and it's going to start spreading out to different states. So politics is very important. Please study.
And that's you guys, Jabari, JP, and Hakeem, y'all all hit great points. And as for me, I feel, and from researching, that the Democratic Party has failed the black community. And I think we should just create our own party to help the black people, because I feel like both parties ain't really helping black people too much. So it's kind of as an emotional thing because we've been doing it for like 20 and 15 years. And you keep seeing the same result. And you keep doing the same result. At some time, it becomes insanity. So we have to do better as a people.
That's exactly what it is. That's a great point.
Definitely, brothers. And, you know what I mean? My last point is, you know what I mean? Until we start practicing cooperative economics, we start getting with different other organizations, you know what I mean? Stop practicing separatism amongst each other. We can start to get some things done. You know what I mean? Start to sit down with different folks and start to come to a common ground. Because at the end of the day, we're fighting one enemy, not two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And until we stop looking at each other as enemy and start understanding the landscape that we're in the battlefield that we're playing in, then we can start to win a couple battles to lead us on to win the war.
So on that note, KR Kosher Radio,
we out.
Peace.
Man, I just appreciate y'all just listening. Stay tuned for the next episode.